NEXUS is an EU-funded project striving to make inclusivity a reality in the world of research and innovation. The project focuses on developing inclusive gender equality plans that span both in intersectional and intersectoral dimensions in 9 universities and in research organizations across Europe.
Would you please briefly introduce yourself and your role in the EURAXESS Science for Refugees Hub?
Thank you. My name is Svetlana Dimitrova. I work for Sofia University, and my university participates in EURAXESS network.
Okay.
Maybe because we go further, I just to say a few words about EURAXESS, because it is something that needs to be introduced before the hub.
Yes.
Since the whole hub is part of EURAXESS. So, in few words, this is a formal initiative of European Commission. It started about 20 years ago, and main aim of the initiative is to support career development and mobility of researchers in Europe.
Okay.
We have national networks, and just our audience to be aware what it is actually. It is a network of contact points that serve in research organizations that serve researchers. They help them, they support them in everything that is not related to their research, accommodation, banking, kits, and these different kind of needs that researchers have, including career development, like supporting activities in developing soft skills and things similar to those. We also support organizations, our own organizations that we are based in, also national authorities and European Commission, of course, in providing data, in providing advice and policy remarks. So this is what we do. Recently, in order to enlarge our services, we established, and to focus them, we established 5 hubs at EURAXESS that are international hubs, and they are oriented towards a specific service that we offer. For instance, the Talent Management Hub serves researchers in academia. That there is another one for scientific entrepreneurship. And one of those 5 is actually Science for Refugee Hub that is devoted to specific needs and service that is oriented towards refugee researchers in Europe.
Okay. And how would you say that the Science for Refugees Hub aligns with the goals of EURAXESS?
It's actually a huge benefit for European society to welcome refugee researchers that arrive for different causes. The war in Ukraine is actually going already 30 years, so this huge wave of refugees, and among them a lot of very high qualified specialists, and including researchers among them, is from one certain point a very huge benefit for our society. And we need to put effort and time in order to integrate them better and to support our economies, and at the same time make their life easier in European countries that they are based in.
Thank you. And can you tell me a bit more about your role with this hub, with the particular hub?
Exactly. I missed to say that at the beginning. I am representing Sofia University within EURAXESS network, and as such, we started from the very beginning of this initiative, Science for Refugees, to participate in every single activity, including in the pilot projects that there were not such projects before in European Union. Projects in Horizon that were oriented, Bridge 1 and Bridge 2 project, that were oriented towards supporting integration of refugee researchers. And this was related at that time with the first huge wave of Arabic refugees, and including them, of course, university professors and researchers that came together with all other kind of migrants searching for refuge here in Europe. So we, as let's say a country that was based on the Balkan path, were interested in the topic, and we at Sofia University put a lot of effort in that, not only participating in EURAXESS activities such EURAXESS Science for Refugee Initiative and projects, but also on national level. We were part of many working groups, focus groups, cooperating with NGOs, supporting even, we have university master program for training students that will then afterwards work as migration supporters. This is a specific and unique, actually, initiative of Sofia University to have this kind of, let's say, master program that afterwards, when they graduate, this degree will allow them to work at social services, national social services at national organizations, but also in NGOs that support migrants and refugees that mostly pass through the country, but also stay and ask refuge here in Bulgaria, and especially with Ukrainians, this is really a lot of work. So since then, we work on that. And it happened that we were the most devoted member of the network that is a national coordinator of EURAXESS that is interested in details and in depth in this effort. So we lead this hub.
Okay.
But this is a joint effort. It is not only we that are, but we also have a lot of other members in the hub. In total, 12 national coordinators participate. Some of the contact points, and recently we have also established local hubs in UK and in France that are devoted to working with refugee researchers in place in those countries.
Okay. So that brings us on to the topic of diversity and inclusion, which is very important to NEXUS. And how would you define diversity and inclusion in relation to the Science for Refugees Hub?
Okay. Generally, refugees as a whole are part of minority groups in each country. So they are in the scope of any gender and diversity policy, and also working groups and focus groups that need to adjust the existing policy to the needs of the current situation and the migrants. In this regard, refugee researchers are very to the point of any of gender equality and also diversity and inclusion policy in research organizations. Practically all the new charter, for instance, of European researchers and all the policy document address this issue not only from the point of non-discrimination policies, but also for inclusion. So refugee researchers are actually our object.
Yes, yes. So the main focus is on an inclusive perspective to try and work with these people. And are there specific initiatives or programs that the hub implements to promote diversity and inclusion?
Indeed, we do. We run different activities and initiatives. I can mention the recent ones. We have started within the recent EURAXESS project, Air Talent project. We ran an internship program for refugee researchers that is actually a small program and funds up to 6 months companies, small SMEs, small and medium enterprises, NGOs, any kind of public organization, for-profit and non-profit, for instance, libraries, museums, hospitals, that would like to hire a refugee researcher. And this program benefits both sides by supporting them up to the 6 months financially with an average salary for the refugee researcher. And this allows their better integration and building good cooperation with the employer that could, after the program, continue with the permanent contract.
Okay. And then in relation to challenges, are there any specific challenges that you think refugee researchers face in relation to diversity and inclusion?
Definitely. Generally, any refugee comes from another country, from another culture. And more or less mobile researchers that move to Europe for doctoral study or any kind of grant or project, they also face difficulties when they come in another culture. But when this movement is forced, and when especially you come from a country where there is a war, many people come with psychological trauma. This is one huge problem and a big challenge for us. For this reason, we intend and we are on the path to establish specific psychological support generally at the European level for those researchers, refugee researchers that are not based yet in any, that don't have work at the moment, they are not hired anywhere, or they are hired somehow integrated in some research organization, but at this organization there is no psychological support.
Okay.
For this reason, we will establish with the REMU cost action mental health of researchers, joint activities that will ensure existing of at least first level of support for those researchers. Also, we will train EURAXESS staff to be able to recognize
Okay.
the need of psychological support and to guide um, personally those researchers that need such. And for this purpose, we will use an existing unique internet tool that
Okay.
we developed at Sofia University within EURAXESS. This is an international mentoring program that works on global basis and works
Okay.
permanently. So we will use this already for years, and we will use this online tool to join the specialists from Remo Cost Action and possible researchers that, refugee researchers that would need this kind of support.
Okay. Okay. That's very interesting, Svetlana. And can you think of any specific examples or of barriers that refugee researchers encounter within the European research system?
Research systems in Europe are more or less unified, not fully, but European Commission steadily works on this issue. And more or less policies and practices in European research systems are similar. This is not the case in the research systems in other countries. When a refugee researcher comes from this kind of third country research system and culture, organizational culture, this is a huge challenge for them. They need to be guided with the personal support rather by a specific mentor in order to learn about that, to accommodate within this system, and to start slowly but steadily adjusting themselves to this kind of I will give you a simple example. For instance, applying for funding. You know, research in Europe is mostly project-based. And funding comes through different kind of programs, national, European ones, etc. More or less, they are similar. The conditions, the terms of the programs, but foreign researchers are not acquainted with that. This is a very huge problem for them to apply, and on top of everything, to compete with European researchers for funding. This was notified to the European Commission from the very first project that we had, and from the recent projects like Inspire Europe, and with the current SAFE project that is devoted to funding for dedicated funding for refugee researchers. For instance, Maria Curie for Ukraine, that was run under Inspire Europe project. Actually, all of those, including our bridge projects, they confirmed one and the same issue. They cannot adjust that fast in preparing for application. So we need at European level to consider dedicated funding towards refugee researchers. That is actually oriented for those that are already here or researchers at risk that would come and are in the process of communication, so that we can prepare them and apply for specified and dedicated for them funding. In this regard, the project SAFE that started in September this year is actually a pilot project. It is operating under Horizon, but it is not part of it. It is a pilot project that is actually to prove or not some of the practices that could be used when we arrange a dedicated funding. And after this pilot project that is actually requested by European Parliament to the European Commission, then after that, in the next framework program, there will be a specified section for dedicated funding for refugee researchers.
Okay, so it seems like the hub is very much aware that there's issues on the micro personal level that need to be supported, and then just to help people get used to how to operate with a very different bureaucracy.
Yes,
And that this is most likely coming with
exactly, and adjusted to their specific
yes,
situations. Of course, this will not solve all of the issues. They will not fund all of the researchers.
of course.
Of
Yeah.
course, they will fund these programs will fund and COS will fund the best ones. But still, this is a very good example on how we could arrange a supporting instruments on national level.
Absolutely.
In addition to these that are established on European level. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then if we talk about collaboration and support, Svetlana, how does the hub collaborate with other institutions and organizations to enhance the experience of refugee researchers in relation to diversity and inclusion?
Yes, in any case, you cannot do anything alone already in our society and in our civilization at the level we are right now. But this is very, very valid for research, and especially for refugee researchers. You cannot serve them without including all of the stakeholders in the whole process. So you have to start with the very first point, with the NGOs that work in place with migrants and refugees from the very arriving of such person in Europe, and then go through the legal authorities that are involved with the arrangement of the legal status of the person. Then you continue with municipalities where you have to ensure accommodation, kindergarten, healthcare for the family, etc. And finally, we stop at our concrete role where you again cannot work alone. You cannot work alone when you serve a refugee researcher in one institution. You have to engage all the departments and all the university or research organization staff in all the process of integration of a research.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it's very, in a way, it's a poster child for Nexus. It's inclusive and intersectorial. It's outward looking and working to ensure inclusivity at its core.
Exactly. For instance, I'm happy that I'm part of the Nexus team, and I can give you an example. One of the researchers that we supported, a Ukrainian lady, a professor from, as far as I remember, it was Donetsk, where she lived before leaving Ukraine for Bulgaria. We hired her at Sofia University. We supported the whole process of her integration, of course, and at the end, she is now working also for for NEXUS project. Not only for EURAXESS Hub, but also for NEXUS project. So using refugee researchers to help refugee researchers.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
this
So
is, yeah.
yeah, that's a real example of how the hub works
Yes,
and
include
its
the
success.
target in the work of integration,
Yes,
include the target representatives.
absolutely. And that connects with the idea of impact and outcomes. Because I'm just wondering what type of metrics or indicators do you guys use to evaluate the success of diversity and inclusion initiatives in the Refugee Hub?
Of course, this comes through collecting data. Otherwise, you cannot. Yes, there are quality sides of the process that could not be quantified, but in any case, you need some data in order to make an analysis afterwards. So, generally, at EURAXESS, we collect data for many internal reasons, and also to provide European Commission with enough data for making their next decisions. Not only policy, but also funding decisions. So in this regard, at the Hub, we also are collecting some data in order to evaluate and decide what is best for our next step in order to provide better support. And I can give you an example. This is the number of researchers, refugee researchers that participated in our events, in our webinars, in our trainings, in mentoring program and in internship program. For instance, at the moment in the internship program are registered about 400 refugee researchers in Europe. So you see what is the need of the researchers to be supported. Of course, the job offers are not that many, but we are doing our best in order to provide those that could not be hired through the program, since the program is very small one. We make our best to include them in other type of activities so that they can develop their soft skills, their application skills for funding, and to provide them with other type of support in order to they can benefit from our service anyway.
Yes. So again, that inclusion piece is knitted throughout the whole hub. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so when you think about moving on then, Svetlana, future directions with this particular project, like when you look ahead, what are the hub's goals to further enhance diversity and inclusion amongst the refugee research community?
Yes, indeed, this is very important. Without looking in the future, you cannot plan well your steps. And what we notified that it is very important to pay attention to the gender diversity and especially to the female refugee researchers. Not even saying refugee researchers from Arabic countries that really need indeed very high attention to that. But generally, the refugee researchers that arrived from Ukraine and university teachers with the recent wave are mostly women. In this regard, most of the researchers that arrived with the recent wave of refugees from Ukraine are female researchers. And in most cases, they're accompanied with their kids. So our diversity and inclusion measures
Okay.
in this regard are very much oriented towards supporting female researchers.
Okay, so the gender plus dimension is very important there, gender plus the refugee status.
Exactly.
Yeah. And are there things that you think within the hub you can try and put into place to scaffold that experience or to create, you know what I mean?
Yes. What we do at EURAXESS, we never stop. Generally, as a whole, if you have a network is different type of organization. If you have a network that works internationally, you, especially in this kind of size that it is currently, we have more than 1,600 contact points in Europe only, and other officers that are based in all continents. Only in Asia we have 4 or 6. I cannot remember at the moment, but in China, in Japan, in India, and Asian that include Indonesia and Malaysia. All this stuff, you understand, it cannot be one and the same all the time. So it is like, as I compare, it is the EURAXESS, it's like Sofia city motto. Always growing, never gets old.
Yeah. A good way
So,
to look at it.
yeah,
Yes.
we always have new faces at our meetings, and we always have to take care of training of the new staff, in introducing them to our initiatives and getting new ideas. Getting
Okay.
new ideas from them. The young people are always in our mind.
Okay, okay. And when you think about the future again as well, that like are there changes in the research landscape that you see coming or new trends that you think might impact diversity and inclusion, particularly in relation to, you know, the refugee researchers?
Very important initiative of European Commission with university alliances. This will change indeed the research landscape in Europe. This is a measure that is directed towards unification of our research area. And in this regard, I think refugee researchers can benefit from it.
Okay.
Because all of the universities in one alliance will have one and the same policy, one and the same service, let's say, arrangement at the administration level. And finally, we will have one and the same programs. And at the end, we will issue a university diploma. So, University Alliance in this regard is very important measure by the European Commission that is to affect the level of integration of refugee research, including all other diversity and inclusion and especially gender equality measures that are taken on organizational level.
Okay, okay. And then as we come to the end of our conversation, do you have any closing thoughts around all of this?
Never forget, when you talk about refugee researchers, that every one of them is a single person with their own specific, with their own needs. And when you think of someone that needs to be integrated, that needs to be addressed through a policy document or practice that is to be introduced in an organization, think that they will affect concrete persons.
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep the fact that we're all people and the human element at the center of it. Thank you very much, Svetlana. There was lots of very interesting things there. Thank you.
I also thank you very much, and cross our fingers for the future of the refugee researchers in Europe.
Absolutely, a wonderful initiative. Thank you.